unions destroy capitalism and free enterprise, I'm sorry to say.
Why is California so expensive? Why? Because of union pensions.
The unions say they are standing up for the little guy. No, they are not. Not anymore. The unions are in bed with Washington and special interests, and they are not in your or this nation's best interest anymore.
The labor unions right now simply exist for one reason: to self-perpetuate receiving union dues and having political influence.
Thank God most of the workforce isn't unionized.
Behind me is U.S. Borax and hundreds of union workers who are being locked out after months of negotiations between the union and the company have gone nowhere. The lockout started Sunday at 7 a.m., but that didn't stop hundreds of employees from showing up to let Rio Tinto Minerals know they want to work.
Let us work! Let us work!
The company says they didn't want a lockout. It was simply the last resort.
We've been negotiating since September, and we just haven't had meaningful discussions with the union. They've only been willing to meet 2 days a week, and we're just not reaching any sort of agreements. And so we need to do this to secure our business.
It's been about their contract, not ours. They hadn't even really listened to our concerns across the table.
Both sides say they are ready and willing to negotiate. And the one thing they agree on is getting the employees back to work as quickly as possible.
Once again, they disrespected us, and we're just not going to tolerate it.
I want to let everybody know we made the front page of the Los Angeles Times this morning. The world is listening. Just want to let everybody know, keep your head up, stay strong, keep the faith, and keep fighting. That's what we're going to do, okay? Everybody's listening.
We try to do a good job for the company and ourselves, and we feel betrayed.
We try to keep telling them people this ain't a third world country. This is America.
ILWU, Local 30. We are locked out!
My name is Terry Judd. I'm a former loader operator at Rio Tinto Minerals Borax in Boron, California, and I'm one of the 570 locked out miners. I ran a Laterno 1350 front-end loader. So my day was pretty much going down into the pit. I actually dig it out, load it up on a haul truck. The haul trucks take it up to our primary crusher. At the primary crusher, they'll dump it into a hopper in which it goes into these rollers, and it's literally crushed down into smaller rocks. They'll take it from there, they'll send it to the stacker, and they make piles. And we have bucket wheels. They'll pick up the different materials for the different plants, depending on, where it's going and what material it is. It gets shipped on belts over to the plants where then it's processed. A lot of it goes through a secondary crusher to crush it up even into a finer material. Then they get sent through a dissolving process, a drying process, till eventually it's bagged, put on a truck, and shipped to our customers. Today, we use borates in just about everything. You find borates in your food. They use it in fertilizers. Borates in plastics, in woods. They treat the wood for houses with borax to keep termites from chewing them. We use borates for high-definition TVs. Pretty much anything that you have in your house has borax, including, the most famous, which is laundry soap and hand detergent.
What the company did then, after they locked us out, they had Gideon go down, and we had to show proof of who we were, had to show them our driver's license. They then gave us our last paycheck, and they also gave us our vacation pay. So we received those 2 checks, and we didn't receive it from someone in the company. We received it from 3 Gideon security officers.
This Gideon company it's a union busting company. One of the things they do is they pretty much guarantee that they'll get an injunction against the picket lines. Okay, so they're out there with their video camera. We don't have picket lines. We don't carry picket signs. This is not a strike. This is a lockout.
I had never, in my 31 years of employment, never imagined that we would actually be locked out of our jobs. It was devastating to myself. I started to cry and was very emotional, as were many of my coworkers.
When Rio Tinto locked us out, and it was a real slap in the face to a lot of us. You know, we put our hearts and souls into our jobs. And that was one of the most disrespectful things that they could have done to us, is pretty much just toss us out the door and say, well, you're not needed.
Negotiations in previous contract, there was what we would classically call negotiations. There was give and take, number one. The company typically tried to, well, not typically, they always tried to dominate the negotiations, always.
And right from the beginning, you know, it was clear the company wanted to literally do away with 40 years of contract language.
Yeah, it was a long, drawn-out process. We met twice a week, every month while we were there. All of our proposals that we gave the company, they verbally rejected or declined every proposal that we gave them. And they kept on trying to force on us what they wanted.
But then on January 28th of 2010, it was a Thursday, it was contract negotiations, came in, sat down, the company walked in, I think it was 5 minutes after 10 o'clock in the morning, dropped their contract on the table and pretty much said,
we're throwing everything out. The contract's gone, all of that's gone, all your past practices are gone, all your grievance settlements are gone. Here's your new contract.
Our local called an emergency union meeting for Saturday, January 30th.
Let's call this meeting to order. Our strategy was not to go on strike. Our strategy was to get a fair contract. But Borax, you've read the articles that our contract was too restrictive. They couldn't run their business. They couldn't make a profit. And of course, the economy didn't help us either. So that was the time for them to jump on the bandwagon. That was the time to take advantage of the working man. It's an illegal contract. We've been over, I think, 30 visits now. It doesn't take that long. It's just that they want their stuff in. They want a new contract. It's their contract. It's not ours. Ours is gone. Let me tell you, the history of this contract goes way back 40, 50 years.
They are desperate. They are forcing a lockout. A lockout in which you get unemployment. It's not as good as your pay, not even close, but it's a hell of a lot better than nothing. They can't permanently replace you in a lockout. You're guaranteed to get your jobs back. That's not necessarily true in a strike. This is not the company's plan. This is the company being desperate because we have stood up to them. It's just the first round and it's going to get harder. And we have to stick together.
What the company's counting on is everybody's fear and insecurity. That's what they're counting on today. And you guys think about the fear and insecurity you have today. That's what you will have every day for your entire career that you work here with this contract.
Right. You guys have one thing in common. It's your livelihood, your family. And all of our friends around the world, they have been waiting for this day. Because if you stand tall, everybody in this world, labor unions throughout the world, and here in the United States, are going to be standing tall with you.
I want to make a motion that we reject this contract that the company has offered.
All those in favor of rejecting this contract say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passed.
The company gives the impression that this big bad union is lying to the membership and not telling them what's going on and telling them what to do, and it's exactly the opposite. This is a democracy. I represent these people. They tell me what to do.
We want a fair contract.
It's just that what you're telling this committee is you don't want them to crawl back this afternoon and beg them for a contract. We're going to call them up and we're going to tell them that you rejected the damn contract. And you're going to take the lockout and you're ready to bargain with them. But you're going to be stronger when you've shown them what your backbone looks like. Right. That's what you just voted on, brothers and sisters. Right.
The company had literally thrown out a professional, committed, long-term workforce for pure the lust of raw power.
Being on the negotiation team, negotiations started September 15th. The company went first and laid down what their proposals were. And their proposals were to get rid of the old contract almost completely.
The contract that has existed here for years and continues to get more and more complicated doesn't work in a mining environment. The contract language we proposed is common around America for mining facilities and works quite well.
They wanted to get rid of the union. At the end of the day, our vice president, Jack Leavengood, stood up and told them, hey, this has been a union shop for over 30 years. The union's not going to go anywhere. The union is still going to be here when we get done with these negotiations, and it's going to be here for a long time after that.
Their proposal will probably be 8 or 10 pages long, and basically it says we can do whatever we want. They, in their verbiage, can contract out 9 jobs at a time without consulting anybody, and there's no limit. So if you just stop and think about that for a little while, okay, just do the math. If they did 9 jobs every day, 2 months from now, 2 months from the time the contract was implemented, there would be not one single union member out there, all gone. The union is gone.
They wanted a unilateral, absolute control of the employee. They wanted it on a daily basis. In other words, it wasn't just overtime, it was on a daily basis. They could sit there and say, today, employee A will go over to the shipping department. Tomorrow, he or she will be a janitor, okay? And the next day, okay, you're gonna go dig under the ore under the reclaim belt. They wanted this daily, absolute control of the employee. They wanted to be able to move the employee's wages up and down as they deem fit. They wanted the ability to hire in temporary workers with no limitations whatsoever. They wanted to contract out any job with no limitations whatsoever.
For us, seniority is a big thing for labor, okay. So you wait your turn and you get the things that you want. You get to go to the department you want. You get the shift that you want. You get the days off that you want. Okay? Under their proposal, they can put you anywhere they want. You have no say. They can put you on any shift that they want. They can put you on any days off that they want.
Even more, they wanted part-time workers instead of full-time workers, part-time jobs. This week I could work 40 hours. Next week, no, you're gonna work 16 hours. They wanted to reduce this down to this level. Remember, we're talking heavy industry. We're talking about skilled employees. It takes years to reach these levels of skill. It is literally abhorrent to treat such a workforce that way.
I have a lot of respect for veterans. I'm not one, but I have a lot of, my son-in-law is active military. Now, the company has stricken all veterans benefits out of our contract, all of them. They no longer want us to give Veterans Day as a holiday. What a slap in the face to the military. What a slap in the face to the United States of America.
Everything that we consider the norm in America, and I'm not just talking within a organized union workforce, everything that we consider the norm in America, period, okay, they wanted to strip of us.
There are so many companies that are looking and seeing if Rio Tinto gets away with this, and we can probably get away with it too. So this is just a microcosm, a little example of what's going on all across the country.
I come from Australia, from the Maritime Union of Australia. We came over here to stand shoulder to shoulder with our brothers and sisters of the ILWU against this rotten company that sacked all these workers and locked them out. Rio Tinto has a bad record everywhere in the world. Australia, developing nations, they're a terrible company.
Well, Rio Tinto's got a long track record of supporting deregulation and attempting to deunionise its operations all around the world. And in the mid-1990s, it collaborated with a conservative government in Australia, and it set about attempting to deunionise its coal mines. Now, they picked 3 mines in particular, Hunter Valley No. 1, Mount Thorley and Blair Athol. And in each mine, they attempted to stall collective bargaining negotiations and offer, under the new laws available to them, laws that they had a hand in drafting, offer individual contracts. And that was a new thing for Australia. The contracts were secret. The workers weren't allowed to discuss them with anybody, including their family. And they met very little acceptance of those agreements. And the workers stuck together in Australia at those 3 mines and attempted to continue to collectively bargain. There were long periods of lockouts, there were long periods of strikes, and through all of that, the union campaigned in a community fashion, and it campaigned around the world in support of those workers. We were at every annual general meeting for a decade, in Australia and overseas. It's a dual-listed company. We took delegates to London. It's a long way from Sydney, let me tell you. And our campaign got the support of European pension funds and North American pension funds. And ultimately, the company failed. It took 7 years at Blair Athol mine. It took 4 years at the other 2 mines. But ultimately, the union got a compensation deal back, a combination of money and jobs. And the total of the money was a record for Australia of $25 million.
Since the lockout, you know, a lot of us in the union have had to step up and take roles that normally we wouldn't do. Prior to the lockout, I was a steward. So when the lockout came and they needed people, you know, I was there to step up. Well, the first day of the lockout, which was January 31st, I actually hung around down here, and we had a big crowd down here, and they had sign-up sheets for everybody to sign up for gate duty. Our purpose for being out here at the gate really is to document anybody coming in and out these gates. When we have truck drivers coming in, you know, we let them know what's going on. We actually try to get them to turn around and take their loads back and not cross our line. So we have actually had cases where people have shown up out here and they knew nothing of, you know, our dispute with the company. And they've shown up and sat there and flat out said that they will not come back through. Oh, what's about to happen right now is we have one of the buses and the Gettier guards that haul the scabs in and out. They're getting ready to come out the gate right now. And what's going to happen is the guys are lining up on the orange line that they've marked there at the gate, and what they will do is they will stop them and they will walk those vehicles all the way out here to our 45 sign.
And why do you do that?
To slow them down, to let them know we're out here, that they're going to have to deal with us every single day that they come out here.
These guys are hired to break unions. It's about as un-American as you're going to get.
Right now, it's shift change, and a lot of the workers that have been in there all day are coming out. These are the workers, the replacement workers that are working in our guys' place. Help our guys go back to work! Slow down!
Todd, it's not fun. Go get your tired of it. Let us go do it. We know the bucket wheel's down. Let us go work.
Shame on you, Todd! You should know better!
We set off to join the picket lines, but together we cannot fail. We got stopped by police at the county line. They said, go home, boys, or you'll go into jail. And which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Well, it's hard to explain to a crying child why her daddy won't go back. Said the family suffer, but it hurts me more to hear a scab say, sod you, Jack. And which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Well, I'm bound to follow my conscience, and I'll do whatever I can. And it'll take much more than a union law to knock the fight out of a working man. And which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on?
I started working here back in '99. I spent 5 years in the refinery, and now I've worked in the shipping department for about 5 years. We had just built a house a couple years back, and you know, it's rough having the kids wondering, are we gonna lose our house? You know, stuff like that. I mean, I hate seeing my kids all stressed out like this, you know? And you can't lie to them. My son here, his big thing was, yeah, my dad drives the train for U.S. Borax. And now he's stuck out here on the line screaming for people to try and give our jobs back.
1974, I was 23, 24 years old. I went through a strike that lasted 4.5 months. Very unorganized. No one knew what they were doing compared to this lockout. 1974, they were burning of buildings, destroying the police cars, just havoc everywhere.
This is the 104th day of a strike by workers at the U.S. Borax mine in Boron, California. The issues apparently are wages and job classifications. The strike has been bitter and at times violent. And since the only real industry in Boron is the mine, the economy of the whole town is suffering.
This borax mine is the largest in the free world, producing 70% of the ore that's used to make everything from glass and soap to porcelain and cosmetics. The historic 20 Mule Team wagons used to work this desert mine, and that tradition is still remembered in the mining town of Boron that grew up around it. But now, a 3-month-old strike is threatening all that. Violence is common. Arrests occur almost daily. And several buildings at the mine have been burned. And now, that bitterness has infected the town and its people. Scars of that bitterness are easily visible in the tiny town. The hardware store's windows were smashed and are now boarded up. It's owned by a mine supervisor. Someone fired a shot into a gas station owned by a union man. And several homes have been firebombed. This one was owned by a union man who crossed the picket line. The 20 Mule Team Day celebration is supposed to fill the streets at this time of the year, but it was canceled because the town has nothing to celebrate. 1/5 of Boron's families have left town because they couldn't take the strike anymore. And as long as the strike continues, the exodus will probably continue, threatening the very life of the town the 20 Mule Teams built.
We were a peaceful demonstration. We wanted to look like we were decent people to the public. We want to be perceived as people that had a plan.
My daddy doesn't work anymore.
How come?
Because they took our job. Yeah.
At the point of the lockout, okay, it became readily apparent that, number one, we had to internally organize. For us to survive as a union, the families had to survive. This is an absolute fundamental. And with the lockout, literally a company's intent is to starve the workforce, starve them economically, to terrorize them with, the absolute fear of the unknown. How am I going to provide for a mortgage? How am I going to provide for medicine? How am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to pay my bills? So we ended up setting up an array of committees. We had a food bank committee.
My mother and I both do the food bank committee. We help when the trucks come in with loads of food, you know, we're there to help stock it. We stay after everybody else leaves to, you know, break open boxes, get it all set up. We show up, you know, down there once a week for meetings. We show up to distribute the food, doing 2, sometimes 3, 4-hour shifts.
All this food here has been donated by other unions, mainly Stater Brothers and Teamsters. And every day, Monday through Friday, we give out food to our members. They come in here and we make sure they have food so their kids and families aren't starving.
The food the union has given us has helped a lot. I joke around a lot. We have lockout meals. A lockout meal is when all the food is free. That's a lockout meal.
And it came from the AFL-CIO.
Yeah.
Then we call it our lockout meal.
A lot of families in this area are having to make drastic changes, you know. People are already having phones turned off, you know, having to try to defer payments. So every little bit right now helps.
One thing that the union did, which was an unbelievable help to all of us, was the financial aid system that they set up, doing fundraisers through LA, and the support we actually got throughout the world. And they would set up meetings and we could go every Saturday and take whatever bills we had, and if it was a necessary bill that we had to make sure was covered, then they would let us know that day.
At the beginning of the struggle, as our international union set up a support apparatus to begin the process of interviewing individuals who were in need. And the criteria was, number one, we should be concerned about people's medical and maintaining medical, particularly those people in crisis and in real need. Number two, the question of being able to keep people in their homes or from being evicted. Number three, being able to sustain people in terms of any of their utilities being cut off. So what we come up to do is to interview, and after we interview each person, we then sit down collectively with the 3 teams that are here to review each application, and then we make a decision based on those criteria.
Yeah, we come to the union hall to get medical care because my husband and I both do have high blood pressure, and we need help with the COBRA. It's just too expensive.
For the last 3 months, we basically had to go to low income. I can tell you personally, with my family, we lived a pretty nice life. You know, we had a house, nice cars, and was able to help my older daughter go through college, and medically everything was fine. To where when things got cut, we had to go on, we became low income. We had to get on Medi-Cal, food stamps, and things like that. Also, I had to deal with a lot of my medical issues with my son, who has Crohn's disease. My son was actually due for surgery, and being that we didn't have insurance, we had to look for insurance. That's where the issue came. So that surgery was postponed, and it also to where he has to see a specialist down in Los Angeles. That's over 90 miles away from here. He got a little sicker, but he maintained, and he was pretty strong. My major goal is to take care of my family. It was pretty hard to wake up every day and not have a place to, where I'm supposed to be at and be home. Yes, I took my kids to school. Yes, I helped with their homework, and yes, we talked and things like that. But it felt less than a man to where I had to sit there and worry, struggle, ask. The Union Emergency Committee came through especially last month, because we had to move from our previous residence and had to move to something a little more affordable. And I went to my union. I had to suck it up, being kind of a prideful person. I sucked it up and went in there and asked for help. And without hesitation, we have you. We can take care of it. Is there anything else we can do for you? And that made things like we came back that day and we had a smile on our face. Local 30 ILWU came through for me and my family.
Tori, our grandbaby, she at birth was born with a severe heart murmur and needs ongoing medical care. So we definitely needed the medical insurance for her to keep going, to make sure she was taken care of, to make sure that her appointments were met, her EKGs, her sonogram, everything was taken care of, and they did pay for that. They took care of it all.
Outside of paying union dues, I hadn't had much involvement, because there was not really a need But now I decided that whatever I could do to help our cause as a union to get back to the bargaining table, to get these issues resolved, that's what I wanted to do. So I became part of the outreach committee and working with the community business leaders, trying to get the message out that we do want to go back to work, and we are the people, the workforce that they need.
Let's put our agenda together for the community outreach meeting today. We know that last week when we met, we put our list together of all the different community businesses that were going to be supporting us. It was a pretty impressive list.
Some of us went out to local businesses to get their support. How are you?
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right, all things considered. I have been volunteered to be on the outreach committee to go ask some of our business owners if they would show support for the locked out workers.
Absolutely. My husband's one.
Oh, great. Well, we appreciate that because
Yeah.
we need all the help.
People are talking about this, and maybe to point out how many other businesses have supported us. I mean, almost every business in Boron, and more of them in California City, and a lot in Mojave.
Been in Boron about 32 years, had the restaurant almost 13. Don't know that much about the contracts and things, but for the little community, yes, it was not, I can't say bad, because we did okay, but your business did gradually decrease. So had to subsidize a little bit to keep everything running as it was. And we did offer a 20% discount to them. He took things out to the line for them, tea, coffee, cookies, donuts. Just tried to give them moral support, actually.
I found this restaurant back 1988. We came up to Boron from the Antelope Valley. Well, when they were out of work, and we support them not just with feeding them, but also more with morals. And we try to let them know that everything's gonna be okay. You just gotta be patient. We're here to work with you guys, be part of Boron, and some of the guys are the guys that they coach my kids in football, baseball, basketball. So I mean, for me, it was sad to see them at the line wanting back to work. And so it's my honor to go back. I went out there and catered for them a couple of times, and also let them know that the long run, God's going to take care of us.
Tonight we're here to enjoy good music and a good meal, but most of all, we're here to thank everybody and all of these community leaders and all the community has come out to support us in our struggle for a good job and an end to this lockout.
Everyone I spoke to did give their support. And not only do they display our sign in their window supporting our locked out families, but they've taken time to give donations and give us discounts and do so many things for us. It's just really overwhelming to myself, being a longtime resident here.
I've been honored to be the honored Mayor Boron for a number of years, but I've never seen this town so sad. I'm sad to myself, so please bear with me, and God's going to bless us all, and we're going to get through it. Thank you.
This company is trying to destroy the union and trying to destroy this town. So I want to tell you something. You guys keep up the good work, because I believe that you're going to win it. And the final analysis is you held stern to what you believe. Thank you very much.
We've got a lot of media coverage that's come in, so why don't we review our media coverage?
During the lockout, we received quite a bit of news coverage. The Los Angeles Times published many articles about our struggle. We also got articles in local newspapers. We were in the Antelope Valley Press, Bakersfield Californian, Mojave Desert News, Random Links, and the Patch Beacons.
We had magazine articles in these times in the nation, and I also spoke on NPR's The Marketplace radio. and appeared on Democracy Now!
We were also invited to the annual Labor Notes Conference in Detroit, Michigan, where we received the Troublemakers Award.
We also went to speak at college campuses. For example, we went to University of California at Riverside, University of California at Santa Barbara.
Rio Tinto spent a lot of money every month on full-page ads in a lot of our local newspapers, trying to boost their standing with the community, trying to show what a nice guy they are. So ILW Local 30, we started our own media campaign.
Media related, we got an agenda here going forward.
I went to the media committee meeting, and there was talk that we'd like to have a newsletter to let people know what's going on. We have a newsletter called the Sagebrush Telegraph. It's the unofficial newsletter for the ILWU Local 30 locked out workers. We didn't start writing articles. We had suggestions from different members of what they wanted to know about. Some of the folks were concerned about how they were going to pay for their prescriptions, and we did some research and found that there was different ways they could get cheap prescription drugs. And it normally got printed there at the hall, and it got distributed a lot of different ways. One week I know they put it in packages of food that people were picking up at the hall, and then there were copies of it that were put at the gate. So when you went to do your gate duty, there were copies of the Sagebrush Telegraph there for people for that. The media committee also had members. There were some of the folks that were talking to some of the local clergymen, and also some that were talking to the local politicians, and trying to explain to them what our situation was, and to elicit their help and support.
Barbara Boxer, she did show us great support. We did receive support from some of the California state assemblymen and senators. There's a congresswoman. She did an outstanding job for us.
I rise today to speak in support of the hardworking miners of Local 30 of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union. Mr. Speaker, this style and approach to hardworking Americans is not operating in good faith, leaving 560 hardworking men and women forced to choose between their job and benefits is happening too often to too many workers these days.
It was in November that we started the website. That's when we decided everybody needed the information. And we came up with boraxminers.com. On the website, we would put action bulletins that we would get from the International Union every week, and we would post those so everybody can see what was going on during negotiations. And we would also post information about Rio Tinto.
So in September, I started doing some research on the company to find out, okay, what are we up against? What have they done in the other contract negotiations? What I actually found kind of shocked me. We didn't know that this company had such a bad reputation all over the world. We need to let everybody else know what's going on. They need to know what we're up against too. I did an article links page for the website so people could go through that. And then they started, some of them would post some of the articles on Facebook to share with them, and it was United Borax Workers Against Third World Treatment. That was an avenue for people to vent, to share information. Everybody got to come together, even though, some of us are 70 miles apart. We had quite a lot of people from other unions, from other mines in Canada, Australia. They all heard about the website, they found the Facebook page somehow, and they would share their information too, and help encourage us. That information sharing made things go a lot better and made us a lot stronger in fighting this too.
During the lockout, the miners of Boron, what we did down here at our Local 20, is we got some shirts made. We were told that we couldn't wear them in the plant. We wore them anyway. The company got a little mad about that. But all the proceeds from that shirt went to the Boron people. All throughout the ILW, people were putting in $10 a month to support the Boron drive.
What Rio Tinto did to those families in Boron is an attack on working class and middle class families who are working harder and finding it more and more difficult as corporate America seems to be only interested in one thing, and that's profits. And people are fed up with it. And the fact that people have drawn the line in Boron is inspiring people. And that's why they're coming forward. That's why they want to help. That's why they want to make the 200-mile round trip to Boron.
This is one of the most extraordinary showing of solidarity amongst brothers and sisters to help the locked out miners in Boron, California. We're taking these rigs full of food to those locked out families. We're taking food for their bodies and flags for their spirit.
But those folks are coming together, they're getting organized, and most importantly, they're fighting back. And that's something we don't see enough of happening in America. The event here today, with hundreds of people that have come down, contributed food, adding up to $30,000 worth of food that's being contributed to help those families.
As long as those workers have the courage and the strength to keep fighting, courage that most workers want to have. This is a terrible time for employers to abuse. There's already suffering and hardship across this nation. And all I know is that as long as they need us, until the day they tell us, that's it, we've won, we don't need you anymore, until that day, we're going to keep on doing everything we can to help them.
This is awesome. We've never had this kind of support ever, and it's really, really nice. Awesome. And everybody's backing us up, which is really great. Makes us want to do more, do our part.
IOW, and also too is workers being put out of their jobs, their livelihood. They built this town. So it's like the Great the Rap, John Steinbeck.
Spread out a little bit. Spread down, guys. Spread out a little bit. Yeah.
You may not understand this when I first say it, but it's good to be home. Because even though most of us who came here today are from a big city, Los Angeles, this is really home to us. And it's home to us because home is wherever families that work hard every single day are fighting back. That's home to us.
In early March, the employees of our public schools held a solidarity march and rally up here in Boron for all the locked out workers of ILWU Local 30.
I am chapter president for CSEA, which is a California School Employees Association. We represent the classified, which is school bus drivers, custodial, library, media tech, secretaries. We are the backbone of the school system. And we're here today because we want to support our fellow union members that are being locked out of the Boron plant.
as a local teacher, our livelihood depends on people living in this town. And if the lockout remains in effect for a long amount of time, then a lot of people will have to move out, and it's going to force our enrollment down, and some of our teachers will lose our job. Plus, as far as I'm concerned, the company's wrong in their demand.
Eligibility. We got turned down for Medi-Cal.
We at this point have no health insurance. We just got a statement saying that we've been turned down for Medi-Cal. I'll have to call tomorrow and see,
what the heck is up with that.
why we
Lord,
don't have any health insurance. It's a hard thing when you have 3 children to live without health insurance. That is one thing that I would take less pay to make sure I had health insurance.
With 6 kids, I don't have extra money to put in my 401k. We don't have any savings. There's no stocks and bonds, of course. Most of our money, in fact, my retirement money, basically goes to buying groceries. Before the lockout, we were sometimes averaging $1,500 a month to feed the family. And we didn't have any money in the bank. And if they hadn't paid us for our vacation that we had on the books, we would not have had any money in the bank on the day of the lockout. We worried about making every house payment, and we held off as long as we could each time. The company kept stringing us along and kept making it look like we might get a contract, but then if we didn't, we had to figure out whether we were going to make the next house payment. We've been in this house for 12 years, and if it wasn't for, I think, the community support that we received, we probably would not have made it through this financially.
Work, I've already looked for work out of state, and if we don't go back to work soon, we'll probably move out of state. So that's the plan right now, stick it out as long as we can, and if we don't have a good resolution, then we're gonna have to pack it up and move on.
And that's a hard thought, because we both grew up here, and our families, our aunts and uncles, and we both come from large families, and our siblings are nearby, our nieces and nephews, and we're very close as families, and it'd be really hard to have to pack up and move. And what do you do with your house? If everybody's moving out of state because this job here isn't working out, and it's a small community and everybody's having to move, what on earth are we supposed to do with our homes?
Family is the only thing that matters at all, and we've said this to each other. They can take away our income, but they can't take away our family.
There are some people that go to church with us who are temporary workers, and it's been really hard to go to church and to see them, but on the same coin, I would rather see them coming to church and trying to do what's right in their lives than to treat them bad. So Tyler and I are not willing to treat people ugly in the face of this.
Especially in the beginning, there's just so much anger, and excuse me. In the beginning, there's just so much anger, but we've tried to work through that and have faith, and turn to our faith and tried to have a Christ-like attitude.
But it was really tough as a father, because I've always been the breadwinner. I'm 50 years old. It's the first time I've ever collected an unemployment check. Never been on any kind of public assistance of any kind. I never felt any shame. It was there, and that's what it's been there for. And we needed it. And I was going to do whatever it took to support my family.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! Rio Tinto! Please wake up! Rio Tinto! Please wake up!
Tinto have locked the mine, so there are loads of families without any jobs, and there are people starving in Boron.
The ILWU has flown us here today for this shareholders meeting with Rio Tinto, so I can go up and ask them a question about why are they treating their workers this way.
I don't think it's any secret that Rio Tinto are not a particularly good employer or a good corporate citizen, but hopefully those shareholders that are here today will leave with a better impression of what kind of company they're investing in.
I want to raise a question about the lockout in Boron, California, and ask what measures are being taken to end the lockout, which I think is causing hardship to our employees.
Tom, would you please respond to that?
Because in the long term, I actually think the borates business is a good business, as does Guy, but it's one that's been suffering from progressively lower productivity and progressive losses in terms of its long-term market share against this very, very strong Turkish competitor. Elsewhere in the United States and North America, we have more modernized contracts. And what we were looking at in our bargaining, particularly around seniority, was to align the seniority provisions to be identical to those seniority provisions we have elsewhere in North America in union operations. And that's what the whole crux of the bargaining issue was. We did not see what I would have said would have been active negotiations by the union for that period. That's unfortunate. That led to the lockout.
Thank you. I come from Boron, California. My name's Dave Irish. I work at the Rio Tinto U.S. Borax mine. Tom, you mentioned one thing about seniority. You didn't talk about the other proposals that you want to take away full-time jobs and turn them into part-time employment spots. You also didn't talk about if an employee gets injured and is out on disability, how you want to take away the health benefits to their families. And with the lockout of 570 employees, their families, the hardship you're causing to them and the communities around there. And you blame the union for not coming to the contract table, which is wrong. The company hadn't met with us one time since they locked us out January 31st. What we came here today is to see why you disrespect the employees, some with 40 years of experience at the mine. Is that important to you?
That none of the proposals that are being discussed are in any way designed to create a number of temporary positions. We are simply suggesting flexibility, as Tom has already previously indicated. And we're not meaning to take away full-time jobs and make them part-time jobs.
As I said before, I welcome the union coming back to the table. We did ask the mediator back in at the end of January to February to get bargaining going so we can actually sit down and have a constructive discussion. I welcome that.
As you can tell, they avoided answering my questions that I had. And some of the things that they did discuss, like taking away full-time jobs, they want flexibility. Well, what is flexibility? And this is a huge mining corporation. They have mines all over the world. And they mine almost everything. And it's a corporation that made over $6.3 billion last year in 2009. And Rio Tinto, in the first 6 months of 2010, have already made $5.8 billion. While we were in London, the union organized a demonstration at the LA British consulate, where we had tremendous outpouring from support of other unions of Southern California and the ILWU.
We're just down here showing the British consulate that they can't be locking out American workers, trying to treat us like we're a third world country, and trying to take the labor movement back to where it was before unions.
We're SAG members here because we believe in supporting our labor union brothers and sisters and unfairness in labor practices. So we want the lockout to stop right now.
Let's let them know on the 14th floor at the British consulate. What are we going to do? End the lockout! End it now! End the lockout! End it now! End the lockout! End it now!
Welcome, brothers and sisters. It's a thrill to see all of you here today. Last year, Rio Tinto made $6.3 billion. Billion with a B. the president of Rio Tinto made more last year than all of our workers combined. They make over $100,000 profit per employee. They say it's not enough. How much is enough, brothers and sisters? What would be enough? There is no amount that could make them happy.
End the lockout now! End the lockout now!
They brought in all this alleged expertise help, okay? The scabs.
The people we've brought in are skilled Americans from all over the U.S. that were currently unemployed, and they're happy to be here.
They can say whatever they want. They're not putting out very much product.
At this point, we all believe that they're not working at full capacity. They talk about how they're at 75% capacity. They're making historical record production numbers, which we know can't be happening.
We get a lot of information from subcontractors going into the plant, supervisors working in there, you know, some of the security that works in there. They're very good about giving us information back. And what we have heard is the majority of their replacement workers are unskilled workers.
And I know for the first month and a half, there weren't any steams coming from any of the plants. So at least the first month and a half, there was very little, if anything, getting done.
And we've had truck drivers stop and tell us, I'm empty coming out. In March of 2010, International ILWU sent me down to Melbourne, Australia to attend a rally that was held in front of the Rio Tinto headquarters. We drew the line in the sand up there because this company cannot continue with their corporate greed, destroying families, working families, taking away their jobs, not just in America, not just in Australia, but all around the world. We have a saying up there, every day longer just makes us one step stronger. And that's how we feel.
And today I stand before you because we're dealing with a company, Rio Tinto, who has an arrogance, an attitude, a power that's been unchecked.
What they're doing in California is illegal. It's ethically and immorally wrong. And we're going to stand by our brothers and sisters in California, and we're going to stand by them to the end to make sure that they go back to work on the terms and conditions that they're entitled to. The avatar theme we got here is about intergalactic mining corporation that ravages distant planets and people in a rapacious drive for profit. The question we ask, is Rio Tinto following a frighteningly similar script on Earth?
They say we want to work for Rio, and we say no, no, no. 500 miners work for Rio, we're told to go, go, go. We ain't telling lies, this place is full of spies. They want us to replace the workers, and we say no, no, no.
I'm from Bougainville, which is where the Panguna mine is. And Bougainville is actually part of Solomon Islands. It's about 600 kilometers away from Papua New Guinea. The population right now in Bougainville is about 200,000. The majority of Bougainvilleans, they do farming, farm for cash crop like cocoa and coconut. Rio Tinto came into Bougainville in mid-60s, and they started building the mine in 1969. And in 1972, they went into full production.
There was around 900 million tonnes of copper ore, which also contained gold. And of course, when they discovered that, they were definitely going to mine it out without giving any consideration to the people of Bougainville or the environment. The land in Bougainville is owned by the people themselves. Even though the people of Bougainville own their land, they don't seem to have much control over it, so to speak, when it comes to multinational mining companies like Rio Tinto. And I think a deal was done when the mine did begin, that the landowners got a smidgen, a tiny fraction of money compared to the billions that the mining company Rio Tinto were making The construction workers employed by Rio Tinto Mining Company came from Australia, 9,000 workers, not Bougainvillian people. Of course, the Bougainvillians were in awe about what was going on, seeing what was happening to their land and their environment. There were people also brought in from Papua New Guinea, but not one Bougainvillian person was employed.
Our color is black. When people like us, we went up there to looking for a job, there will be a notice up there, no got work, which means no work. And when Papua New Guineans, they went there, the next day you saw them working,
Once Rio Tinto realised that they should listen to the local people, some Bougainville people were employed at the mine site. They were paid less than the other workers and were, very disgruntled about that as well. Thousands of people were displaced to let that mine go through.
Yes, there were many, big hills and mountains there, and they really destroyed the land, destroyed the mountains, everything, and just start digging a big hole, which became a big hole in the Pacific.
Millions of tons of tailings, poisonous tailings, went into the Jabba River, the river where people were drinking their water from, bathing, etc. Their food crops stopped growing because of the poison. The dust was intolerable from the mine. It's just a moonscape. The people on Bougainville fought back against Rio Tinto. The people mobilised and tried peacefully, to speak to the mining company. And one particular character, Mr. Francis Owner, took some dynamite from the mine and decided to blow up the electric pylon. And that stopped the mine from operating. Unfortunately, from that, the Papua New Guinea Defence Force were called in, the Bougainville Revolutionary Army was formed, and a war began.
Yeah, Papua New Guinea government, they respond very quickly with sending the right police with orders shoot to kill. So they came in and they killed Bougainvillians, they burned their houses down, they, brutally killed them. The company, gave them the trucks and money and helicopter, the commercial helicopter, which are owned by company. They use it and they mount the machine guns. They started spraying villages from that helicopter. And we just, stood up with whatever weapons we can defend ourselves. That's what we, use. The mine finally shut down in 1989, in May.
When the Papua New Guinea Defence Forces came to Bougainville, a military blockade was placed on Bougainville. That's land, air and sea. And that blockade had lasted all the way through that war, from 88 right through to 97. The blockade caused misery to the people on Bougainville. There was no medicines going through, food supplies were short, and also to get the story out about Bougainville. That was basically one of the ideas with the blockade, was to try and stop the world from knowing about Bougainville and how the Indigenous people of Bougainville closed down the biggest mining company, basically Rio Tinto.
And it caused a lot of, deaths on Bougainville, maybe 15 to 20,000 lives lost.
We're charging Rio with substantially participating in war crimes. They knew what was going on. They knew that people were being killed. They knew the blockade was hurting people. And they directed that it happen and gave financial assistance. And therefore, they're guilty, in our view, of violating international law against war crimes.
Michigan's Upper Peninsula is a spectacular place. It is a quarter of the land area of the state of Michigan, but it's very undeveloped. We only have 3% of the population, so there's a lot of large tracts of undeveloped wild lands left. As a peninsula, it is almost completely surrounded by water. So a lot of people come to this region to hunt, to fish, to just get away from the hectic chaos that more developed areas have to offer them.
Around 2002, we were noticing a lot of drilling rigs up on the plains, a lot of trucks rolling around. You started seeing the airplanes flying over. This was Kennecott. Exploitation out of Vancouver, which is a subsidiary of Rio Tinto.
And what first got my attention was that Kennecott was exploring and proposing to mine under the Yellow Dog River and the Salmon Trout River.
Michigan is so water rich. Even sulfide mining, it's called hard rock mining out in the west. Sulfides are sulfur that are locked in rock, and they're aligned with the actual ore that they're trying to get, the metal that they're trying to get. So as you bring this big rock up out of the ground, immediately upon air and water coming into contact with these sulfides, it starts creating sulfuric acid. So we're afraid that there are releases that they did not intend that get into the groundwater that go into the Salmon Trout River, then eventually getting into the Lake Superior.
So people started holding rallies and asking questions of their local officials and attending public hearings.
Stand up for clean water. Stand up, stand up.
Actually, Rio Tinto started building on their construction site and on our public land prior to having all of their permits. So a number of local people took over that proposed mine site and camped out on the portal for 5 or 6 weeks.
This is important stand here with this group of people that's out here. You can have all that money in the world, but when it comes to growing food, the water's full of contaminants, the land is contaminated, the air. How are you going to exist? How are you going to keep on living with that kind of environment?
What you're seeing as Eagle Rock, that's only the head. The body of that rock is the body of this earth, our Mother Earth. The water that flows on this land and through this land, that is the blood of this earth. And these multinational corporations come in with their big money and they manipulate our institutes. They manipulate the very systems that are supposed to be protecting us, that are supposed to be the guardians of this land. And it's coming down to us. We, the individuals, we, the people, are the guardians of the land. And that's why we're here. Kennecott's been in here and intimidating people and, quote, asking us to leave.
The police go by here.
Today we got a message in camp that the police were on their way.
Rio Tinto doesn't care about communities. Rio Tinto gets the business folks to rally behind them because of jobs. They don't care what happens in Big Bay. They don't care what happens along the road. They really don't care about that as long as they're able to get their mine in place.
Between the assistance of the federal mediator and our lawyers, we were able to get the company to come back to the table and, recommence negotiations.
We don't think good faith bargaining can happen here while a lockout and illegal lockout's happening. So we're very suspicious of their motives and what they're going to do, but we wanted to give it a shot, and we'll have a really good sense today.
Negotiations were to take place at 10:30, 11 o'clock. They came in with a completely different attitude from what they had yesterday. Yesterday they seemed to be willing to make concessions.
I know what the demands were last night on the sidebar, which basically they took everything off the table that they put on during the day. But we haven't heard nothing today.
At about 2 o'clock, all the union body went inside to the negotiating room. We waited. 3 o'clock, they said, well, we're still talking about whether we're going to go in or not. We sent the federal mediator in, tried to coax them out. What it basically amounted to was no progress this afternoon. They're afraid to face us.
The company
They always talking that they want to negotiate, but they're never there. They always do this to us. And they say, in the paper, they have somebody write in there that they're always here waiting for us, and they're never there. We're always in the room sitting there.
They're going to have to face us sometime, whether it be back at the negotiating table or back at work. This room is never going to get less empty. Every time they negotiate, we're going to have our union members down here.
The company basically had said they no longer could negotiate with the workforce present, because the way we had negotiated, we are a very, very democratic union. We're a very, very open union. And we have always insisted to have our workforce be part of the negotiations. By that I mean we shared what was happening. We did not want the company to ever be able to sit there and say, well, this is what your union committee's doing, and they're not telling you the truth. We wanted the people to know firsthand.
ILW met with the Vice President in charge of North America Rio Tinto operations in San Francisco. The International can do a lot of things. One of the things that they have in their arsenal is they can close the docks down. The whole West Coast is closed down. They can not handle scab cargo, so no Rio Tinto cargo will move. So came out of that meeting, and after that meeting occurred, now all of a sudden the company wants to negotiate.
We ended up generating a tentative agreement. This was approximately mid-May, and we brought that tentative agreement to the body. The body was able to ask questions, and we actually presented to the body copies of the tentative agreement so they could review them, get all their questions answered.
May 15th, special meeting, approval of contracts. We first started this saying a lot of people were over there as observers. As you know, this green book, we always refer to it as green book. The company just trashed it. And I will tell you today that most of the green book is back. There's a few things that changed, but it's still in our favor. So I'm very proud of you guys, because you guys are the ones that fought the fight. And we were down there just negotiating the contract. But you guys are the ones that stood up to the company, and that's what it took. I just want to give you a round of applause for that.
It is indeed an honor to stand in front of you, because Rio Tinto did not want this meeting to happen. Rio Tinto wanted to break Local 30. That was their goal. That was what they're going to do. For 3.5 months, you guys, as Dave said, stood up to the boss man. You did the right thing. This is a victory. This is a huge victory for the ILWU. It's a huge victory for the labor movement in the country and around the world, because Rio Tinto is coming after everybody. But you guys stood up, and now you've set the scale. You set the bar for a lot of working men and women, not just here, but around the world and in the United States at these other plants. So thank you very much. Thank you, Dave and Jack, the negotiating team, and Boron. Thank you very much.
The company's proposal, the thing they locked you out over to win, was about 20 pages. And about 10 of those pages were management rights, where they had the right to do anything. You look at the management rights clause now, it's like 6 lines. There are some changes, we'll talk about them, but you have to remember what they locked you out over. And you compare it to this, and it's night and day. The pension for everybody here stays the same. Huge fight to get that. Huge fight, because they wanted to destroy your pension. But what we gave up was for new hires aren't going to get your pension plan. New hires are going to get a defined contribution plan, like the 401k plan. I'll tell you that it was a huge fight. The committee really worked hard here, and folks really thought that this was the best deal that we were going to get. People are proud of it, and you guys should be proud of your committee because they fought like hell for it. At the end of the day, folks have to remember, for everything here, it's just words. None of this means anything unless you enforce it, unless you guys fight. Because otherwise, none of this matters. You guys know this company. You know they're going to take advantage of anything here, and you guys are going to have to be vigilant and fight back.
Motion passed, so let's clear the room so we can get set up for voting, please. Thank you.
gave up too much for me to personally pass through. My father was union president during the 80s on this. He's the one that fought for it to get a guaranteed pension, where seniority mattered stuff, and we're just giving too much away and not receiving enough for the contract itself.
We didn't get everything, you know. I know there's people, you know, they wanted more, they didn't get it. Some people, they're perfectly happy with it, but I look at it this way. We didn't lose anything, and I'm happy with it.
We're ready to go back to work. You know, they've been locked out. We've been locked out for 3.5 months, you know, and the only thing that we've looked at is the company's proposal. You know, this ain't right. You know, we're just going to break even. And, you know, we just want a fair share and we want our fair rights. That's all we want.
From what I've seen, it looks fairly reasonable. So we'll see what happens. I have a feeling that it's gonna pass, but we'll find out. You know, the beauty of the democratic process will manifest itself here today.
Won't be long, probably.
279 yes, 95 no, 75% it passed.
75%.
Good job.
Good job.
Woo-hoo!
That's awesome.
Some of us have never been through anything like this before. A lot of us have always looked at unions as an organization that may be obsolete, but I got to tell you, when you're dealing with a worldwide conglomerate like Rio Tinto, you learn to realize that unions aren't obsolete, and we need them.
So this week was ultra intense to the point my jaw hurts because I was so stressed and gritting my teeth. And then it was just over. A friend of mine wrote me and she goes, well, that was anticlimactic because it was just done. You know, and there was all this buildup and this buildup, and then about 5:30, the vote came in and we had our contract and was like, oh my gosh, it's over. It's over. The lockout's over, you know?
You want some fizz? Johnny, want some fizz?
Rio Tinto did at one point decide to come to the table, to start bargaining in good faith. And I think the reason behind that was that they were simply not being able to keep up with the orders that they had. They were hurting over there, from what I've understood since, that they're out of product out there at this point. They need us out there to start doing it. They haven't been able to do a lot of mining out there.
I think they caved in for several reasons. One, they needed us back at work. They needed the skilled workers back in there, the people who know how to run the plant.
You're looking at almost 600 people lost, and I doubt they even had half that many people. They weren't able to run that full mine the way they should have. And that cost them, like I said, they were just to maintain, and they still weren't able to fully maintain. So it was a huge loss for them.
They were never up to 100% capacity. They had accidents all over the place. They had people who cut themselves, hurt themselves. They had people who derailed trains. They used to pour boric acid all over the place. You know, they were saying how wonderful everything was, and it wasn't wonderful in there.
Since we got back from the lockout, we found out there's been a lot of improper shipments that were sent out. For instance, they put the wrong product in a container, which was sent to Samsung, you know, one of the LCD TVs that were sent out, and it ruined their equipment. And due to that, I believe that we lost an order, a 45,000-ton order, and 3,000 tons a month, and that's big. That's big to hurt borax.
Number two, we had that lawsuit against them for the unlegal lockout, and they wanted us to drop that, and that was kind of one of the conditions of us going back to work was, you know, we dropped the lawsuit and we got a bonus added onto our contract, and they knew that we had them for the illegal lockout.
Anytime you have an illegal lockout and a huge fine monthly, the fines run anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a month. And anytime you have a unfair labor practice filed against you, a company Until they resolve them, they still have to take your people back to work. So that was hanging over the company's head.
The town of Boron, or the high school there, we've always been the little team, the little school that we've always had to fight. So when you have that fighting mentality, I don't think they realize what a fighting mentality we have. And so when they said, bring it on, we were like, okay, let's go. And I think that was really shocking to them. They made us really, really strong.
The company is Goliath. They think that they're above the law. They thought they could get away with whatever they wanted, and they didn't want to take the time or the hassle to actually bargain with us fairly. They thought they could starve us out, but they didn't realize that they were dealing with, a bunch of desert rat Davids that were really, really a lot tougher than they thought.
We all knew going back to work, nothing was going to be the same. There was a lot to overcome, and there was a lot of hostility still being vented, both on the side of the union and on the side of management.
They have hired some of the scabs back in. The company's attitude is that they are new hires. We all know who they are and what they are. There's a lot of deep-seated anger and resentment towards these people right now, and I have my feelings about it, and they're not good, but at the same time, being a steward and also being a member of the executive board with the local, we need to do everything we can to bring these people into the fold.
We're a union, and we're going to show them the union way. There's many issues that that they're going to benefit from the contract, and by doing that, by following the contract, hopefully that they'll see why we fought out there for 4 months.
We've had to file numerous grievances over, issues with dealing with overtime, transfers. The company has also turned around and thrown at us that they want the entire borax property to be rotating 12-hour shifts. And right now we're in the process of fighting them on that. Everybody needs to understand, walking back into that plant, resuming our jobs, that's just step one in the next battle.
This was a really hard road for the union. The odds were really against it. It was David versus Goliath in every sense. This was one of the third largest mining company in the world. And the union had no real leverage over this company. And the company imposed its lockout, and I think they made a huge miscalculation, which was that they thought that the workers were going to cave. And they thought they were going to cave quickly. And a lot of things went into, I think, getting to a deal. And I think the main one was the company realized that they were not going to be able to win.
If it had not been for the support and the help of all the other unions that came forward and brought food and donated money and gave the support emotionally, that this could not have happened. And I think the guys got a great deal from what was first offered on that table when they walked in and threw the green book, which was their contract, on the table, the company, and said this no longer exists, to going back to that green book and saying it does exist again. You do have your seniority, you do have your retirement, you do have the right to say you can't take my job and make it into part-time junk job. They did a fabulous job. And I think without the support of the International and without the support of all the other unions, the teachers union, the carpenters, the plumbers, the railroad workers, everybody that came, it was phenomenal. And that for me was the best part of the whole thing.
We feel sorry for people who don't have a union because they don't have somebody to stand up. They don't have the unity. I would recommend unionizing to anybody because it really helped us get better working conditions. It helped us, you know, you have to, nothing in this life is free. You have to fight for what you want. We didn't gain our freedoms as a country for free. We had to pay a huge price for that.
We're what America is. This is what the U.S. is. The U.S. is a lot of blue-collar people that just want to work and have a good living and raise their kids. That's what we want.
Middle America is not dead. We've been quiet for a long time and we've taken a lot of garbage. But you know what? We're going to start throwing it back. Because now that we're over our hump, we're going to be there for the others.
We weren't going to cause a ruckus. We were going to fight a fair game. And the company wasn't, but we were going to stay. We were going to have integrity through it. You know, even if they didn't. And that's what made this different than a lot of other things. And I hope this causes a huge, I don't even know how to say it, that other company, other unions, other people that maybe aren't even in unions start rising against the big corporations, and that they go out and they fight and realize that they have a voice. That, yeah, it's hard to live without that paycheck, but you know what? It's worth it, and the pride you feel is so incredible. And I hope this causes a huge movement across the U.S.
I don't remember, dude!
Yeah, this one's for the workers who toil night and day, by hand and by brain, to earn your pay, who for centuries on past for no more than your bread, have bled for your countries and counted your dead. In the factories and mills, in the shipyards and mines, we've often been told to keep up with the times.